coming back with another video. And so I just want to say with this video is that if you follow this series, like a lot of my channel, but especially this series, I'm making a lot of references to the experience of children in the school system. And I don't mean to be defining what childhood is or defining the school system, because I'm just I was a professional in the school system, like 4 years bus driver, but I wasn't a veteran, because you have to do it for like many years to actually truly be a professional and veteran. But I operated like that for 4 years, so that's some of what my experience and background is. And I'm just using it as a case in point to make a larger reference to a function of control and power in society and human dealing that I appreciate as paternalism. In the experience of children in the school system and the presence of children in the school system is a case in point and just a reference for the broader concept that I'm leading towards. But it's not limited to or for the sake of children or education is not what I'm referring to in this video. But I lean into my background as anyone would in what they're talking about. And some of my formative experiences were in recent years acting as a professional. A lot of people think that your formative years are like 0 through 18, but I would beg to differ that your formative years are all of your life. In any set of years, any phase of a lot of life is really phases. If you appreciate the development of a human being from the cradle to the grave in terms of strict numerical numbers and preconceived values and appreciation of what those numbers mean, you can be confounded, and you can also be violent by being ignorant, because ignorance is violence. If someone is speaking, is leaning into and unabashed about being ignorant for the sake of ignorant, that would imply violence, because ignorance is attended by violence. That is lack of skill, lack of compassion, lack of humanity is ignorance for the sake of ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I don't mean a lack of learnedness or around books and literacy. I just mean lack of willingness to understand the experience of another person and cooperate with people to humane, equitable outcomes is what I would mean by ignorant. So you can have someone as polished, as well-to-do from any ivory tower of any profession, any standing, can be as ignorant, and violent as violent, if they're not coming from a place of morality and compassion and equity of bearing the human experience together for equitable, humane outcomes where we can all experience happiness and interdependence. Not independence, but interdependence is what is beautiful. But a lot of the means by which, so I think that a lot of things can be, the way that things are maintained, especially in this society, is over and upon the means of paternalism. Because so a lot of things that are problematic, like you tell a child not to do something, and not too very long later, they're going to get around to doing exactly what you said not to do. And as they see themselves able to do what you told them not to do, that's going to embolden them to do more of what you told them not to do, to the point that your very authority and standing around them can become useless and futile. And then you have to lean into paperwork or higher oversight that injures both yourself and them professionally and academically, because it's not a good look to have to put things to paper. But you would get farther if you never had to get as far as telling someone not to do something. So instead of let someone go do something they're not supposed to and tell them not to do something and then have to fight with authority, do cool stuff, lead them the right way, that they don't get around to they don't get around to doing what they're not supposed to do because you had them engaged. So what's more important than correction is actually engagement. So if you have someone that needs a lot of correction, at my time, sometimes in my life I've needed correction, or maybe went without correction that I may have needed. But what would be more significant is if I had engagement from the start point. But a lot of it, so when a child, so what I said in another video is that there's an economic incentive to have children in school, because a child represents a certain voucher to a tax base within a school system. So a child's presence in a school setting is essentially a voucher redeemable by a school setting that is a school district, to be compensated by a tax base. So what came first, the child, the voucher, or the taxpayer? What came first in that dynamic? Yeah, so you're in this and that setting, and so you should be appreciated. So I had a person I would work for as a PCA that said, this is actually not a private sector. When you're a PCA, this is actually when you're working as a PCA, you're taking government, you're taking tax revenue, and therefore she was pointing out that work, service that derives from tax-paying support is it's like a combination of a social, like it's actually a combination of socialism and capitalism is what we have. A lot of people would say this is the land of the brave, home of the free, land of the brave, and they would say fuck socialism and especially communism. But actually, we live in like a mixed structure where you have implications of capitalism that is profit incentive and taking advantage of other people, no less than the people that are supporting you. But you also have a social framework where a child in a school would represent an entitlement and necessitate support from a tax base. But had that child not wanted, does the child have any choice in the matter? Does the family have any choice in the matter? If the child did not want you to participate, the tax base actually needs the child to be in the school, because by the tax base paying for the child to be in school, the child's participation in voucher subsidizes the apparatus of the school itself, which is attended and situated within the framework that is also the tax base, and revitalizes the tax base to have the means to support the student in the tax base. So there's money on the table. So the child is money to a tax to a school system and to a school district, and therefore the child must participate in school setting, whatever that means. So the child must participate in the school first, then in the broader framework of the society. So us actually as people, we must participate in consumption, because our participation in consumption vitalizes, substantiates, and supports consumption itself. And it's actually kind of heinous how children are forced to participate. But a lot of our existence now, part of it is from our needs and our instincts as people, but it's corrupted and different by the economic incentive. So things like education are different than they would be in nature. So when a child gets up on a school bus for the first time, they walk up on that bus, the parent hands the child off to the school. It's very significant, the school bus, because even if we're the child to drop the student off at school, it's a little bit different handing them off to the school system, because now that child is having the experience of coming from one set of paternalism into a new set of paternalism that will actually be the paternalism of the rest of their life. That is, strangers exerting paternalism over that child. And the parents actually can't get away from that, because even if the child were homeschooled, the design of that curriculum, it still leads the child up into getting into different networks of paternalism within strangers within over a lifetime. And it's, as the child's younger, first the paternalism is coming down from people who are older, but then as you experience life and you get through your 20s and your 30s, the paternalism is with your peers and then even people younger than you. And it's significant and part of maturity to get used to that, but we will be experiencing paternalism our entire life. But as we're in the beast. But what's significant about the student getting up on that bus that day is that they're transferring the paternalism, but it'll still be paternalism. And so some of like the child like feeling out, like teachers, like first they're a little bit shy, and then they raise their hand, and then they participate. They're appreciating the viability of the paternalism of whatever teacher or administrator or bus driver or whatnot is around them. Do I respect this person enough to take their directive in what's best for me and my well-being? That's a lot of the question of life. To be or not to be, to accept paternalism or not paternalism is the real question in life. So we're getting paternalism our whole life, like even at the young age like that. But what's significant is that people will respect paternalism based on appeal. That can be sex appeal, social appeal, romantic appeal, social appeal, personal appeal, style appeal. Any different type of appeal is important in accepting paternalism. But then also sense of judgment of another person, sense of that person's standing among other people is important, and then sense of that person's judgment being appreciated by other people is important in recognizing paternalism. So like when I was in the school system, so I'll leave this one. I got one more video with this, and I want to run with this, and I think I'll wrap it up. But paternalism is with us in life, and a lot of times it doesn't work to our favor, and it can be a detriment.